Hey, so check this out. So if you've been around for a while and following us, you already know the story. But if you're not, I've been planning to build a van for the last 5 years. Over the last year, we started a YouTube channel, started talking about this. And honestly, the fact that we are installing this right here today is all a matter of timing, and it was not planned. Yes, we want to be isolated in our van. We've been talking about that for a long time. And yes, we still want to be connected, which is why we got this, okay? So now with that being said, let's start this off. So on today's DIY van build, we're using the RV cellular signal booster made by WeBoost, in which gives us stronger cell service coverage in weak signal areas. So in this video, I could have just stood here, well actually I did just stand here, and start talking about all the features and benefits of this WeBoost.
Wi-Fi boosters, they're not Wi-Fi creators. If you have zero service, this still is going to give you zero service, but if you have, say, like half a bar or 1 bar, really weak service that's hard to use, you turn on the WeBoost, and all of a sudden you'll have 3 or 4 bars, and you'll have a usable signal.
Then I could have recorded us opening the box, showing how well it was packed, all the individual steps and boxes, and all the parts that are inside each individual box. Until our table looked like this, with all the parts telling you what they're all for. But we all know that's boring as heck. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna climb back up on the ladder, and we'll discuss each part as we get to those steps and assemble it on top of the roof itself. So now we're going to start with step 1, which is our antenna, our bracket, and the U-bolts. So if you look on the box that shows step 1, it shows it attached with the U-bolts to a ladder because these are built for RVs. We have no expectations of putting a ladder on our van, so we need to customize this somehow to make it fit. So I have attached that bracket to our antenna, and we're gonna fix it somewhere here so that it can sit on top of our roof. Now obviously with an antenna, the higher it stands up, the better the reception you're gonna get from it. So with this bracket, I was thinking maybe I could take it, I could bend it here, and then we could bolt it through the roof. But if you look at the cable that's step 2, you will see when you thread this on to the bottom of the antenna, just like you do for any cable outlet that you have in your house, you see, when it's mounted, when it comes down off of the antenna, it's really thick and it doesn't bend very well. So if you were to make this any shorter, you'd be bending that cable to an uncomfortable position, which is probably going to cause it to wear out real quick. So what I've done is I've purchased some angled aluminum, 4-foot bar of it. So I'm going to take our antenna, I'm going to line it up against our angled aluminum, and I'm just going to mark exactly where those bolt holes are going to go. Just kind of center it off, okay? But with that being said, I don't want this antenna standing up the whole time, which we'll get more into. So I actually want the antenna to fold over as well, which means you probably can't see that now, but I don't want to move the camera again. I'm going to mark another hole at the top here where the 3rd bolt hole will go through. We'll get more into that here shortly. So now we know with our 3 bolt holes exactly how long this piece of angled aluminum needs to be. So now we'll take over the saw and chop it to lengths. So now with our piece cut, we have our 3 holes that we just marked over there for where our bolts are going to go. So we can bring over to the drill press and drill it out. And with that drilled out and cut, we now have 3 perfectly spaced holes and a perfect bracket to hold our antenna with. But before we're finished, we need to put 1 bolt hole through the base, so in that way we can bolt it to the actual roof of the van itself. So let's drill it. Look at that. Now we got our 3 bolt holes for our antenna to mount to, and we got our 1 bolt hole to go through the roof of the van to hold everything down. So now that we have this bracket made, we need to find the spot on the roof where we're going to mount this so that we can drill our hole through the roof. And I also have to make sure, because I want this to be able to tilt for when we're in drive mode, it can come down so it's not the highest point on our roof. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our cable and I'm going to run it into our box. As you see, I've already made a cable entry box up here. It does come with a gland that you can use for this to put 1 wire through the roof or through the side of the van. But of course, as you notice, we have 4 other glands here. That's because we have other wires coming through. If you want to see how to make one of these boxes, you can go to this link right here and it'll show you how we made one of these boxes, because we did the exact same thing at the front of the van. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cable it came with. Be aware that it does come with 2 different size ends. So on this one here, to get our cable gland plug, I kept calling them seal nuts. We know they're not. They're called cable glands now. Okay. What I had to do is there's heat shrink, just like this one here. There's heat shrink over top of this. I just used a knife and cut it and peeled it away. When we put it back down inside the van, we'll reheat shrink it so that it's all covered off. So with that being done, I can now push our cable through our gland. Make sure you put that seal nut cap on, so you thread that on afterwards. And we're just gonna pull it all through and shove the rest of the cable down the hole into the van. See? Easy peasy. So the challenge for this was, when I have this all mounted in from here, I need this to be able to mount to the bottom like we showed you earlier. And basically I want to have it so it can sit here, but I want to have it so it can actually still twist, so I can close it like that. So when we transport, put it up when we're parked and need Wi-Fi, and we put it down when we don't need Wi-Fi. And my friends, right there works frickin' perfect. Look at that. Love it. So I'm going to take our black felt pen. We're going to mark our spot as to where we're bolting it. And now we get to drill a hole. So for this one, we're going to drill a pilot hole first. Then we're going to use the exact same drill bit that we used on this piece. Look how simple that happens, eh? So let's make sure we get our location set properly. Mark it with tape. Use some emery cloth to make sure we can adhere to the paint surface. Then we'll clean it real good. Then we'll take our primer. I'm sorry, Curtis. Yes, I'm bringing the primer right up on the top of the roof. I know this is something you hate to see, but you're not here to tell me not to do it. Then we're going to prep the base of this bracket exactly the same. Now this did have a sticker on it, and we don't want that sticker left on there and enabling any way to cause a leak. So I'm just using some acetone and wipe that all away. Maybe a scraper even. And look how clean that looks after it's all done. So now I've propped our thing up just to get it up off the ground. I'm going to take some of our butyl tape that we have. Just going to put it right where the bolt hole goes. Then we'll just take our adhesive that we've been using on everything else. Here we are with our piece, our bolt, and on top of the roof again. So I'm going to peel this away. Now because I'm an honest person and I'll own up to my mistakes, I will tell you I was so busy recording and getting this done that I should have primed the bottom of this piece as well, just so that adhesive has a better thing to adhere to. But we did sand that down and clean it real good, so it should be fine. And by the time we're done doing all the sealant parts, I'm not worried at all that it's going to leak. So now I just got to line this up with our hole, and we're going to press it all down in place. And then I'm going to put the bolt down through right away with our washer, of course. And I'll go down to the other side, and I'm going to put the nut on the other side of this so we can squeeze it all together. So now from the inside of the back of the van, you can see where our bolt has come through. I'll take our washer, which I put a little adhesive on. This is really just to help me keep it all in place while I'm doing it with one hand. So once got that washer in place, we have a nylock nut, so it has a nylon insert on there. That way we don't need lock washers. I'm just going to thread it in place. Okay. Now because I'm only one person, I've brought some channel locks, which I'm going to grip on to the bottom of our bolt. See, so I took those channel locks and I put a wrench in there just to hold everything in place so that I can take it back up top. Like an extra set of hands, right? Anything's possible with a little bit of critical thinking. So now we're just gonna tighten her down. That bad boy ain't going nowhere, my friends. Being back inside the van, remember we took this end and we took the heat shrink off of it. So I'm taking a new piece of heat shrink. I'm gonna slide it back on there. Make sure I line up the end so it doesn't mess with our little part that turns. And then I'm just going to use our heater and shrink it in place. And look at that. It looks better than it did from the factory. Perfect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how it hooks up. So the first thing we need is our router. So this router with our end, okay, on this thing it actually has outside antenna and it has inside antenna. So obviously this one here is coming from our outside antenna. We're just gonna thread into the top, just like that. Then it also comes with the inside antenna. So this is gonna be mounted about the halfway point of the van. And it has a similar end on it that looks just like the other one. And we're going to thread that in to the inside antenna. Now our inside antenna is mounted to the WeBoost just the same. And we're going to have to mount our power source. Now it does come with two different options. It comes with this 12 volt that can be hard mounted to your 12 volt system. It also does come with a 110 just standard plug one, which is exactly the same. We're going to take that and we're going to plug it into the power section, which is right down at the bottom here. Just like that. So then, once we plug this into our 12 volt system, when it's all hooked up, we'll have power to our WeBoost, which will boost our service. Now, I do want to test it just to make sure everything turns on. So I'm going to unplug this. And you look at my phone. It says we have 2 bars of service right now. Okay? Oh, look at that puppy. Look at that puppy. So now, we'll take it and we'll plug it into here. Hold on, I'm going to put it on. So now we have power. See? And now with it plugged in, it boosted up to 3 bars. It did say 4 bars just a couple seconds ago. Surprisingly enough, I can actually notice it in my backyard, which I didn't expect to happen. With that being said, let me show you what I did up top, because we did one more barrier of sealing, which is the third and final round of sealant. Of course, our die-core lap sealant. We've used this on everything, and in my industry, when you do this with the butyl tape, and then the adhesive sealant, and the die-core lap sealant, we call it the 3-barrier solution. And with our little 3-barrier solution, I feel fairly confident that we ain't gonna have no leaks in this beast. So let's let her dry. But while that dries, I thought I'd bring in here and just show you. I quickly ran the wires. So you can see the wire coming from the roof. I just ran zip ties just to hold it up. It goes all the way to the front of the van, to where the WeBoost is. It plugs in to the bottom of the WeBoost. And then the indoor antenna comes out the top, comes back across, and sits right here at about the halfway point of the van. That should give you an idea of how it works. The 12 volt power, of course our batteries will be right down there, and it'll all be hooked up. So now, let's get back up on the roof, and I'll show you the finished product now that's all dry. One more time. Check it, check it. Yeah. Looks pretty sweet, eh? So that's in sitting parked mode. Okay, I'll set you up over here. When I'm parked and need Wi-Fi, I can put it up like this. And when I'm driving, just let this down. I'm gonna put the bolt in that side, and now we're in driving mode. Pretty sweet, eh? Tell you honest truth, I'm gonna bet you, being like this, it would work just fine as well. But just in case, we can move it up, tilt it, so it would be the highest point of the vent. But look how slick that looks, eh? What? But that, my friends, that's another project completed, another video in the books. If you made it this far, maybe think about hitting that subscribe button. I don't know, no pressure, you do you. If you have subscribed, thank you, thank you, thank you. And of course we will see you next Sunday. Perfect.